and lived in Galvendale and also in different Bethelsdorp, in different parts of this city. So I very much feel a daughter of Port Elizabeth. So thank you again for inviting me today. Dr. Govender suggested a topic for me to talk about today, home and parenting, the essential foundation of a child's success and happiness in life. It is a great topic, and I do mean to speak to it. But I've got a subtitle, and the subtitle is a theme that has been going around here today. And the subtitle is, what's love got to do with it? Now, I know that there are some singers in the house, and I'm sure that the singers in the house, I heard somebody, I was only seeing a back, but I could hear a voice singing this morning. It was just beautiful, besides the songstress that we had singing words. I heard that singer over there, and I'm sure she knows the words of What's Love Got to Do With It, you know, that famous Tina Turner song. So I don't know if you want to dare sing a line of a few words of that. Do you know it? Come on, is it Sylvie? Come on, Auntie Sylvie. What's love got to do with it? What's love got to do with it? What's love got to do? What's love got to do with it? What's love got to do? Thank you. I couldn't resist that. I could hear her voice. And of course there are some lines that go on that say, what's love but a second-hand emotion? And what's love when a heart can get broken? So I want to speak a little bit about that, as well as the idea of the essential foundation of a child's success and happiness. First though, I want to bring up, in honor of the occasion of celebrating mothers, some stories of mothering. The essential first story of mothering. And I want you at your tables, just for the next 3 or 4 minutes, to tell 1 or 2 short stories about giving birth. What it was like, what you felt, and how it changed you. Okay, so those 3 things. What it was like, how you felt, and how it changed you. And I'm going to ask at each table, I think Alexandra's starting already. At each table, just to speak to those 3 things, and it's not going to take more than 3 minutes. So just get 2 people at the table to say what it was like to give birth, what it felt, how you felt, and how it changed you. So think for a minute, and there are going to be 2 people at the table who say, I want to tell my story about that. So I'm just going to give you a few minutes. I know this is not a traditional speech where I'm speaking all the time. I want these stories. So over to you for the next 3 minutes. Okay, we're going to pick up again. We're going to pick up again. I wanted to do this because I think I want all of you to connect with what some of the components of that experience was like. I've heard a most remarkable story from Sister Gwen here next to me, and I think there have probably been remarkable stories at every single table about what it felt like, the feelings you had, and how it changed you. And I think this has to be the basis on which we build homes and on which we parent. And I want you to hold on to those stories, those of you that didn't get to tell stories, or those of you that haven't given birth and that have heard the stories of others, to hold on to those elements. So I'm going to just give you a little bit of my story, because having a baby, giving birth and becoming a mother changes you, and it changes the world, which can never be the same place again, because you have changed and there is now a new human being that brings all their potential and will add their energy into the world. So the birthing story I want to tell you, I'm a mother of 2 sons. They're now aged 30 and 25 years. 30 and 25 years. But I actually understood and experienced what it meant to give birth to a child before my 12th birthday. So you're asking me, did I give birth when I was 11? It was February the 26th, 1969. Early in the morning, in the year that the astronauts first landed on the moon. My mother was scrubbing the floor, pregnant with her 3rd child in 3 years. You know that story, no? For some reason, I was the only one home with her, although we lived with my great aunt who had raised my mother. So my mother started getting pains, and she knew she was going to give birth that morning. In our community, I don't know if this has also happened in the communities here, there was a midwife. Our midwife, her name was Nurse Dupree. I don't know what her first name is. We only knew her as Nurse Dupree. She delivered all the babies in our community. But because of the Group Areas Act, she had been moved and now lived in another place quite far away. And she couldn't drive because she used to walk from house to house delivering babies. So when she got moved, she was, I don't know what age, she didn't learn to drive, so my stepfather had to go and fetch her. And he called the doctor, who also lived quite far away, and he was going to be on his way there. I was 10 when my sister was born. You can hear from the stepfather piece that I had a stepfather, because my parents got divorced when I was about 4 or 5. So my stepfather was on his way to fetch Nurse Dupree, and the doctor was on his way. I had a sister who had been born 2 years previously, a brother who had been born the year before that. And for me now it's routine. So my mother said that she's getting pains now. I knew what to do. I put the pots onto the stove. We had those stoves, which some of you will remember. They were those burners with the wicks that went into the oil, you know, not an electric stove. And I had to put the pot on top of that stove, 2 of them, big ones, so that the water could boil. I knew you needed boiling water. I didn't know for what, but hopefully not to cook the baby. I got out all the newspapers. I lined the bed under the sheets. I stacked up the clean towels. I was 11 years old. I stacked up all the clean towels. I got my mother comfortable, and then I held her hand as the labor pains came more frequently. very soon, between the pains, she said to me, "Now Denise, you are the eldest. You're going to have to help to look after the little ones. If something must happen to me, you are going to need to look after them." And in that moment, I knew that she must be feeling like she was going to die. Then she said to me, "Denise, this baby is going to come now. You're going to have to help me." No nurse to pre inside, no doctor, no father, no other adults in the house. I didn't hesitate. I didn't think. I felt absolutely no fear. "What must I do?" I asked her. "Fetch a clean towel and I'm going to push. You must wait for the baby and help it come out." So I did this. I waited and she pushed. I saw the first shock of pitch black hair, and then the head, and then the shoulders. And using the towel, I held him by the shoulders and helped him into the world. And Adam, my baby brother, was born. My mother and I had given birth. It changed me, and it changed my world. From that moment, I was both a midwife and a mother. I knew what it was like. I knew what I'd feel like, that the pain would be so bad that I would feel like I was going to die, but that I wouldn't die, and a beautiful new life would come into the world. It was going to be a good 15 years later that I would give birth to my own son, but I was prepared. So why did I focus on these stories, on your stories and on my stories? Because the first essential foundation for the need for a home and parenting comes with giving birth to a child. It is accompanied by labor pains, which is no accident. This marvelous universe, some call it God, some call it science, has made sure we get prepared, that we get changed as mothers, to be able to take care of this vulnerable, beautiful new being that is going to be a part of the world, that is going to shape the world. The two most important feelings that accompany us in this process are pain and love. And these are the two feelings that are the underpinning emotions that guide us in establishing a home and parenting. These are the two most important ingredients that drive us and helps us to set up the foundations for child success and happiness in life. Pain and love. It is not something we learn from others. It is something that comes with giving birth to a child. And this is why mothers are the ones who ensure that the home is set up. Fathers too, of course, because there would be no child if they weren't fathers. And they too contribute greatly. They are an essential part, but in a somewhat different way. Often in a way that is ruled by the head, sometimes the hand, in different ways. Sometimes the hand goes in the pocket, you have to take out all the money that's needed to pay for this and pay for that, sometimes in a not so good way. And not always by the heart. Both pain and love are physical, but are mostly felt by the heart. Dr. Govender, who does acknowledge the heart in all of this, but biologically and physiologically, and Sister Essie there will tell us that really it's the brain. But we know that emotions are felt in the heart. It is the heart that rules us, that tells us how to set up a home and how to parent. So my first message to you then is to remember that as mothers, you have the built-in readiness and capacity to build a home and to parent well, no matter what your education, because of your pain and your love. How do we use these built-in capacities to ensure that our children are successful and happy? These two desires we have for our children are also closely connected. And now I'm going to reverse the order and I'm going to say happy and successful, not successful and happy. I'm going to say happy and successful. Because you can connect these two conditions, happiness and success, to love. And what else? To pain. The first thing that any child needs to know is that they are loved, and to learn to love themselves. As parents, we do this by showing them love unconditionally in the simplest of ways, by giving them attention, good quality attention. As working mothers and parents, how much attention and time we have may be different, but we have to make time, as much as we are able to give, to let them know we are present for them. There was a lovely little story that I read about a teacher who found a job in a school. It was on the Daily Good website. I know Dr. Govinder reads that Daily Good website because he sometimes sends me messages that come from that website. But there was a story about this teacher who got a job, and it was a job in a school where there were lots of children who had problems. Now, in the schools that we are in, our children have got problems. But in this particular school, it was all full of children who had one or other challenge and problem. And they would act out in different ways. They would misbehave in different ways. And there was one little boy who was 10 years old. And the way when he got upset about something, he would just run. He'd run out of the school and into the traffic. And this teacher, as a new teacher, thought, I can't let this child run into the traffic, he's going to get killed. And she ran after him. And he was very fast, and he ran and ran and ran. But she had a lot of stamina. She trained, she used to run, she couldn't run fast. And she ran, and she could see where he was, and she ran and she ran and she ran. And eventually, out of breath, he got into an alley, and he stopped. And he took a breath, and he stopped, and he put his head down, put his hands on his knees. And then he looked up, and he saw her, and their eyes locked, and his face changed. Why? Because this was the first time that someone ran after him. And the police came because they were also looking for him. They were worried about what would happen. They took him away to a care center where he could be cared for. But that connection that was made between that teacher and that child, who was seen as damaged in some way, he was seen as a child who couldn't love. That connection of somebody running after him, thinking he was important enough, completely changed that child's life. So the giving of attention is probably the most important thing. It can take many different forms, from making eye contact, a smile, a touch. This is what we do when our children first come into the world, not so. It lets them know they belong. Sister Gwen was talking about love and belonging, very connected. It lets the child know she or he is connected to other human beings. And the child responds spontaneously and searches this out instinctively. The child cannot speak, but the child's eyes move around to make a connection with another human being. It establishes the child's sense of their own humanity. It is the beginning of Ubuntu. I am because you are. That's when it starts. That first connection that you make with a child and that the child makes with you as a human being. And this contact is the most important thing we can continue to give a child as she or he grows up. As parents, we all have different material things we are able to offer. Our situations and our contexts and our circumstances differ. In a society like ours, there are great inequalities. And we often judge our own parenting against quite unreal standards of what we are able to offer. In the end, it is not about whether we can afford Nikes or Levi's or have a swimming pool in our backyards. It is not even whether we can afford to buy books or send our children to schools where they have high school fees. It's about whether we can give attention. Do you keep contact? Do you give love? Do you tell stories to keep their minds active and engaged in what it means to be human, worthy of respect, dignity, and love? Do you tell them a story about how you gave birth and what it felt like and how it changed you? Do you share meals together? Do you play together? Do you sing? Do you dance? Do you laugh? Do you talk? Maybe read together? Finding the time to do this regularly and routinely is part of establishing a home and building the foundations of happiness and success. Without happiness, success is meaningless. It is empty. Without that foundation, the foundation of happiness, there can be no success. And success can be measured in many different ways. What does it take to be successful? And how do we build the foundations of success through our homes and through our parenting? It is now that I have to turn to that other ingredient that has been part of my story, and that is pain. Nothing is achieved without pain. Nothing worthwhile is achieved without pain. Pain is not a negative thing, necessarily. Earlier we heard Dr. Kavada, other people talking about how there are ups and there are downs. The bird's wing, Rumi says, opens and closes. And it's only in the opening and the closing that flight happens. Nothing is achieved without pain. Pain has to be given attention as much as love has to be given attention. And we need to think about how this plays itself out in terms of home and parenting. There are many ways we can think about pain and how we cause pain, of course. There's physical pain and emotional pain. We want to separate the pain of abuse from the pain that is there for a purpose, like labor pain. It's there for a purpose. It changes you. It is the pain of labor that we need to teach our children. That's why we get it, I believe. That's why we have labor pain. Because the pain of labor is what brings something wonderful into the world. Nothing worthwhile happens without the pain of labor. And that is why they are worthwhile. And why they will achieve in their lives. And why what they will achieve in their lives is worthwhile. Cannot be achieved without some effort that is often accompanied by some pain. You have to help them realize this connection. Help them to embrace it. For without it, they are not likely to be successful. You can name any kind of success, and I'm tempted to ask you, well, what kind of success do you want for your children? But we all know what that is. Whether it's in their studies, whether it's in sport, whether it's in music, whether it's in their relationships, most important one maybe. Whether it's in work, whether it's becoming smart, whether it's becoming rich, whatever you want your child to be able to achieve, none of that comes without the pain of effort, the pain of perseverance, the pain of not expecting it to happen immediately. And this is one of the things that I believe our labor pain helps us and changes us, and we need to take the story and the learning from that to say and to teach our children that they've got to persevere. It's not going to come without pain. It's not going to come easily. And too often I think because of the care and the love we feel, we want to take that away from our children. As we become more successful in different ways, we often think, let's make it easier for our children. And often then our children don't learn the pain of labor. They don't learn the pain of waiting, of pushing, of some of the change that happens when you go through those moments of pain. And the love that comes when you see this beautiful thing being born. Whether it's your degree, whether it's passing matric, whether it's the first love of your life. So I'd like to end with connecting with what you all do, naturally, without thinking, to what research has shown. Research is now starting to study love. You know, love used to be seen as this touchy-feely thing, you know, it's just what you feel. Love is that second-hand emotion. But it's not a second-hand emotion. It is the emotion. Love alters the brain, the scientists have found. It sets up the foundation for success. Science has started studying what happens when love is part of the picture. Scientists studying the brain have shown that love opens up pathways in your brain, in your nervous system, and makes things possible that would otherwise not be possible. New science has shown for the first time how love and its absence alters our body's chemicals. We all know it. You feel good when there's love, right, Sister Gwen? At 21. You feel good. What is it that makes you feel good? They are chemicals. And that love that you experience from the time you were born, if you have been in a loving family, whether it's a single parent family, whether it's your grandmother that's rearing you, whether you feel that, whether it's the teacher that runs after you. This influences how people grow and change to make them healthier and more resilient. What happens in your body as a result of experiencing love makes you able to act and behave in different ways than if love is absent. These new scientific explorations and inquiries into the impact of love in our lives shows that one's brain continually registers our ever-changing circumstances and our bodies act. We show them what we feel in different ways, and these chemical reactions in our bodies get us ready for positive, healthy action and reaction, or, in its absence, negative and unhealthy ways of acting and behaving. So be in tune with how you feel. Be in tune with how your children are feeling. You can change that. Feelings are important. As mothers, you are the ones who have been primed, who are put into this world to be the containers and the givers, the shapers and the receivers of two of the most important feelings, love and the acceptance of pain. Teach your children how to do so too. In this way, you will establish the foundations for happiness and success. Thank you again for inviting me, and I wish you all a very happy, love-filled Mother's Day tomorrow.
Are you blessed?
Yes.
We thank Professor Zinn for this beautiful, inspiring speech and words that she has brought unto us. Home and parenting, and the essence of it all is love. Ek gaan nou iets doen wat nou nie op die program is nie, because I feel we need to respond. Ask one of the mothers to come and respond on what Professor Zinn has just given unto us. I might ask Dr. Rix to come, and Mrs. Bruce, I would like you to come and give a response from the mothers on this that Professor Zinn has brought unto us this morning.
Am I saying?
Oh, I want you.
Okay. Thank you, Vin, but you've really put me on the spot now. But Denise, as I was sitting there, I really feel that, I mean, all mothers, we all know once you've given birth to a child, it really changes your life. It's really a life-changing moment. For me, it was like being on the other side of the coin, you know, because I used to deliver babies. But suddenly, I had my own baby. And I couldn't believe that I was this mother now giving